I'm going to carve a half round band, very simple band, from a block of tube this big. I'm not going to use all of it, but I'm going to measure it out slowly to carve away the form. But I want to make sure that it starts flat and perpendicular so my measurements are accurate. And I can do this by taking a very gritty sandpaper and taking my tube of wax. There's different kinds of wax. I'm having a more organic sculptural texture onto my half round ring, so I want a softer wax, which is blue. Green is the hardest, and then there's purple in between. So that's pretty flat. Then what I want to do is take my dividers. These are really important for carving precise tools, precise wax carving. So that's only 5 millimeters, 5.37 millimeters wide. I want to go a little bit higher than 6 millimeters, so now it's almost 7. I'll give it a little bit more for good luck. Because then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a mark of that width. I can always carve away more. You can always carve away more, but it's much harder to add material. And there's going to always be shrinkage when you cast, so it's always okay to cast it a little bit bigger than your final design, especially in the end. Polishing can take away some material, but what I'm doing now is I'm carving a line a millimeter outside of my initial measurement, so I know where to saw it off. And just like sawing metal, I want to make sure it's supported on both sides, and I can guide using a wax blade. I can slowly guide it through the wax and slightly rotating it as I carve away in between my two lines, right? So I have that wider line, and so I'm not going directly on the line that I want it to be the width of the band. I'm going on the outside of that line. And the line also helps you guide the blade, as well as when you're done, you're gonna sand it down like I did when I started to make it nice and even. So I'm slowly rotating it. Now I'm getting toward sort of the inner tube of the wax. A wax saw blade is spiral, but it works the same in shape, but it works the same way. I don't know if you can see it. The same way with the teeth pointing down and out. Ding! So that's that. We've got all of our tests here, but you want to keep your caliper handy because you'll be needing it for future. But then I'm going to take this and sand it down to make this end nice and even. And I can holding it against my bench pin makes it so that it's nice and level. You know, you're not sort of going at an angle. You don't want to eat into the metal, but you want to make sure you can see there's like a little divot there so you can keep going. Which is why you want it like a millimeter wider than what you actually want it to be, because you always are going to have to take off some material. And you never know. So now I have my ring. I have the start of a ring. It looks closer to a ring. We're going to measure it. So it's more than 7 millimeters. So it's much higher than I want it to be. But that's okay, because I can always take off more material. The next thing I want to do is make the ring size. This is a ring sizer that has a cut apparatus to it. And again, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller than I want my end design to be, because you can always take away more material, and you will always take away more material through filing and sanding and carving the form. So a little bit goes a long way. I'm slowly bringing it out. I want to make sure it's even. So I see one side is kind of getting more carved than the other. Sometimes your tube that you get is a little uneven, the middle part. But it's important because of the taper of this to flip it around and get the other side. So now I've gotten to the size of where I want. And you can see from that little machine, there's a little carved, there's lines carved into it just from the cut of that tool. So what I'm going to do is take my file and file it evenly, and also so this will make it so that it's perfectly the size that I want it to be. So I'm smoothing it out on the inside, but I'm also just slowly, instead of taking off so much material at once, I'm just taking off a little bit. And then again, flipping it over to the other side to make sure it's even. Okay, so then I'll take my mandrel to size it. Perfect, 9.5, just where I wanted it. Excellent. So now I'm going to begin making it half round. Well, I'm not going to yet make it half round, I guess, because it's still pretty tall. I can start by bringing it half round. There's multiple ways to do it, and then slowly bring it down. Or I could just cut off or file off the top of it, and then half round it. But I think I'll start half rounding it now just to sort of start the process and take off more material and start to show you. And the way that I create a half round band is I make it half round at the top here, and this is going to be very tall, but you'll see how quickly material disappears. And I'm using the coarser side of the wax file. It's imperative to get a wax file if you want to do this. You can't use the regular files. As you can see here, this is gummed up with wax, so you take a file card and it can scrape out your wax that's clogging your file. So I'm going at sort of a 45-degree angle here, and you can see how I'm easily taking off more material. I'm trying to make sure that my angle is consistent throughout the whole rotation. I'm doing 1, 2, then I rotate it, 1, 2, rotate. So it's pretty much even all the way around. Then I'm going to flip it over and go the same direction. Again, using the same filing techniques with metal, holding it against my bench pin to support it, and so I can apply even pressure and efficiently file away what I need. Now what I'm going to do is, now that I have the bevel, I can sort of connect them by half rounding the shape. Just by connecting it, it's making it into a half round. I don't know if you can see that. I'm coming at it from the other side. You can see how I'm really taking off a lot of material now, which is why it's like, you know what, I'll just do it all at once. Sometimes you want to take some material off the top, especially for maybe a smaller size finger. You don't take out as much from the inside, so you have to take out more from the top. But since we took out so much from the inside, we don't have to take off so much from the top. Again, holding it against the bench pin. Turning it over. I've gotten it to a point where I want it, this general shape. It's a general sort of half round shape, and I flipped. I was using the coarse side of the file, now I'm using the finer side to refine the marks and my shape, make it softer. And now I'm checking to make sure it's even all the way through. And then what I can do is then I can take sandpaper to get those file marks off. Just like on metal. It's the same technique where you start at 320 and you want to go all the way around. But for time purposes, we'll just do a section. So you can see I'm going in one direction to make sure all those file marks. And this also refines the shape too. Remember, it's just a simple half round. Then I'm going to take 400 and go over that. Smooth it out a little bit more. And any other finishing and, you know, polishing will be done when it's cast into metal, but this really helps the process and helps you to see the general texture and shape of the whole piece. And then I'll take 600, and it's almost like I'm burnishing it. See how shiny it is compared to where it was before? Really looks almost like a finished ring. And then a great trick is to take an old nylon, just cut into a little piece, and that really polishes it up. There's a little bit of texture in here, enough to get the wax nice and shiny. And if you get that all consistent all the way around before you cast it, it'll make your cleanup much easier. And that's how to carve a half round ring.